Cool. Good to go.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is the Wastewater Treatment Plant and Landfill Joint Committee. Date is the 31st of August and it's 3 p.m. I'll open the meeting. I declare the meeting open. Apologies. We have none. Public forum. We have no request for public forum. Conflicts of interest declarations. Are there any conflicts of interest? Notification of extraordinary business. I've had no notification. So I'd like to confirm then the minutes of the meeting held on the 25th of May. I'll move those minutes. Can I have a seconder, please?
Second.
Councillor Duncan. Matters arising. Put the minutes then. All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Reports. 6.1, this is the Wastewater Treatment Joint Committee update. I'll move that the report, do I have a seconder to get it on the table? Thank you, Councillor Duncan. Officers' comment, David and Anna. Who wants to go first?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'll start off. Just a couple of things to point out about the report. Following the request for a bit of information around progress on the Knowing Your Pipes project. You'll see that I've dropped in a little bit of summary on where the project had landed at the time of writing the report, and then also attached to the report the end of August update from Wellington Water. If this information is useful, then very happy to continue to put that summary in as the next meetings progress. The other thing to point out is paragraph 7. I've said in the report, initial letters have been sent out to owners of properties advising of faults and requesting repair. Now, at the time of writing the report, those letters were as imminent as gone. However, at the point the report was authorised, we began to get notice that perhaps we would be going into lockdown. The first of the Delta cases had been identified, and a decision was made that we didn't want those reports to be received by properties at a point where the entire country was in lockdown, and felt that would be quite unfair on those 20-odd properties that had been identified as having faults. So just to make sure for the committee, where I've said in paragraph 7, initial letters have been sent, as I say, they were imminent, they've been held on to instead, and we'll be looking for the alert levels to drop to a point where we feel it's tenable to be sending those notices out. Apart from that, I'll leave the report as being read, and I see Anna Hector from Wellington Water is with us, and just invite Anna to make any comment if she wants, or we'll open for questions.
Anna, would you like to make a comment? Is she there?
She is, but she's on mute.
Anna, you're on mute.
One of us had to do it. Apologies. Agree, I'll take it. The report is read, and I'm happy to answer questions. I just do note that Abby Jensen, who is looking after the Know Your Pipes project, is also currently online and available for questions if anyone has any questions relating to those that information.
Okay, comments, councillors? Councillor Duncan and then Councillor Rush.
I just want to go back to that paragraph 7 that David was talking about before. That will have to change now, won't it? Because of the necessity for us to change the parameters of loan offers, etc., to people who are having to have work done at their house.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, those initial letters don't contain that type of information yet. They're simply, and Abby, if you can just make sure I've got this correct, they are the very initial letters, just to let people know that there is a fault. The letters which may contain information regarding assistance you can get I think letters 3 and 4. Can you check that, Abby, please?
Yep, so the first letter that they will receive will actually detail the fault, and they will be asking them to move through to the repair, but we haven't got any reference to the loan ability in it.
One follow-up question. Well, it's not a follow-up, it's a different one. It's on page 10 or 11 is the two numbers. I'm not sure which one we go by. Under discussions and options, treatment plant consent compliance at the bottom of the page. It says Wellington Water received an abatement notice issued after January and March UV events. Almost all changes outlined in the notice have been undertaken, with the upgrade of the UV system still to be complete. And my question is, does the abatement notice have a time limit on it? And does it fit in with our plans to have it completed in the financial year? Especially since we read later in the report on 6.2 on 15 and 16 pages, item 9 at the bottom, it says the UV treatment plant project is behind budget schedule due to a couple of issues on site causing delays. We don't know what those issues are. So what were the issues, and are we still going to complete it? Sorry, that was a bit long, but.
So yes, the abatement notice does include a time frame, and we are going back to Regional Council to extend that based on the time frames that we're getting from Veolia for completion of that project. A couple of the items that are relating to that is around the taking of the clarifier offline, and obviously where the project is currently on hold during the level 4 lockdown. So no work is currently underway. So we're optimistic that we can make up some time by doing a lot of the background work that needs to be done, so we can hit the ground running when we get to level 3 and start work again. But obviously level 3 comes with its own constraints.
Councillor Rush.
Thanks. So just the selection of South Beach catchment, was that random, or did you have some issues that have been arising there that needed to be fixed, or otherwise?
So the South Beach catchment was chosen based on our global stormwater consent. So we monitor throughout the network at specific sites in accordance with that consent, and that particular site did have levels above the trigger, which we weren't able to track. So this is why we've gone into this higher level of investigation.
Thanks. So we've got about 10 properties out of 57, so 1 in 6 or thereabouts, 21 with multiple faults. So is that consistent with other parts of the network that we know about?
Well, this is the first catchment that we've done in one of the first catchments, I should say, of the Knowing Your Pipes project.
Yeah.
So it's the first one that we've actually gone through to that fault classification stage. So we'll be getting to Wellington City will be the next one, and then Hutt City will be probably followed after that. Okay.
So sorry, I don't know South Beach or the catchment as well as others, I suppose. So is that effectively taken Porora, Tatahi Bay, as well as the parts of Wellington City that are serviced by this facility?
No, it's a specific into the Tatahi Bay catchment, and it's only a section of the stormwater catchment that discharges into Tatahi Bay.
So what about other parts of the network that is being serviced by this facility? Is that going to be looked at? I'm just trying to understand how confident we are that the rest of the network does not also have these issues, and is there a plan?
Yeah.
Although I applaud your determination to prioritise Wellington City Council equipment. Bit of a black hole, that one. But are we going to go further into the rest of the network?
Abby, can I just pop a comment in? The project itself is it's more about the actual network rather than the treatment plant itself. There are some assets that we will come across and do some testing, which do so happen to be joint venture assets, but they are network assets. So I just wanted to be clear there. We're not talking about the effect of the treatment plant as such. We're talking about just making sure the actual network itself is operating well. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really what I was looking at too. Those pipes. Thanks. I did have some other questions.
I'll come back to you.
Come back. Yeah, thanks.
Councillor Leggett.
Thanks. Can I just ask whether we have some sort of ranking system on the impact of each problem, overall on the Koirua City Council wastewater system? For example, water ingress from a cracked pipe or down pipe into the wastewater network. How do we make sure that these problems just don't get all lumped together, so you're getting people to fix minor problems, or are we getting people to fix everything?
So we have classified the faults into ones that need to be fixed to help the network, and ones that we would recommend that the homeowner proceed to fix. So there is a priority system has been applied.
Yeah, great, thanks.
Councillor Hayward.
Kia ora, Mr. Chair. I guess I should just want to make it clear at the beginning that what I'm about to say should not be taken as a criticism of anyone that's going to make the hard work on the ground at the shovel at Wellington Water and their contractors, or put it into the council. There's plenty of praise for the work that they're doing, especially under trying conditions, whether it's during a major storm or like we are right now with COVID. But I am extremely disappointed in the quality of the operations report that's been tabled by Wellington Water. If I can explain why, one of the challenges I have as a councillor, being 2 years into my first term, is trying to explain to non-Māori people the concept of mana. We have collectively attributed mana to the experience and qualifications of individuals who work at Wellington Water, as if we would defer to the knowledge of a tohunga. But there's also mana that is earned and lost by actions. And this mana should be seen as a currency of trust, especially with my community that relies on trust, that they can feel that they've been looked after. I've pointed out in the previous joint committee meeting back in May that the format of these written reports are just not good enough. I've relayed this face-to-face in that meeting to those officers who are responsible for the conception and development of those reports. And I guess I should also point out that those reports the report is created by Wellington Water. It is peer reviewed by Port Elizabeth Council, and it's sent to the chair in advance of the meeting. At the end of that meeting, that last meeting, I relayed my frustration to the chair and to Councillor Duncan about the need for better reporting, and some practical guidance on how what I think would be acceptable. A few days later, I sent an email to the chair and to Councillor Duncan, as well as our CE and the mayor. My hope was trying to be positive, to work through the process in a positive way. I guess for me, the specific issue is just the really bad reporting on the infrastructure improvements from a project management point of view, and to the plant and the relevant parts of the wider network. And I'm not going to go through the email that I sent. I think I've covered, the substantive parts in detail, but it just appears as though the message didn't get through. And here we are again. Now, I like to think of myself as a reasonably clever joker, and I think it's hard to kind of understand from this report how to keep track of the improvements that have been made to the hardware. We already had a question about this from Councillor Duncan already in this meeting. So it should not be up to us as elected members to have to squeeze this information out of officers. And it should not be controversial for the public to have in the publicly tabled documents in advance a fuller understanding of where there are delays in projects and give some commentary from them by Wellington Water. The absence of clearly explainable information in a consistent format creates in my mind a sense of concealment by Wellington Water. Now, the officers might disagree that there is nothing to hide, But to me, they're doing a fine job of making it look like they are. Now, I've tried to work within the process to solve this. And now I've got to a point where I feel that there's not much more I can do to help Wellington Water anymore, and I've left with few options. So, and actually, to be fair, Wellington Water couldn't say anything about today that would make me feel less concerned on the item that's on notice right now. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to vote to accept this report. My colleagues can do whatever they want to do around the table. But if I vote to accept the report in its current format, I don't think Wellington Water will understand the need to pull their socks up on this. And I'll just look like I'm accepting the standard, and I refuse to do so. So maybe Wellington Water feels it can ignore me, but please, officers, understand me. All you are doing is damaging your own money, your own reputation, not just on the plant or its operations both right now and in the future, but on anything that Wellington Water touches when it comes to reducing overflows at the plant. Your mana is on the line. So put this right. Kia ora.
Councillor Hayward, we've already had an offline discussion about this, and I understand your frustrations, and I will rectify that by involving you in a meeting so that we can achieve what you're looking for. So appreciate your comments. You don't need to vote, and we will work on it. But I think you're being a little bit harsh, but that's your point of view. That's fine. So let's try and rectify that so that you don't have to feel frustrated and with our ongoing meetings. Are there any other comments?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to put the report then. All those. Oh, sorry, Councillor Rush, you've got your hand up again.
I did.
And Councillor Poon, sorry, I didn't know you were with us. Councillor Rush.
Yeah, thanks very much. So just going back to the letters that haven't been set but have been drafted, what is the plan when those letters go out? Some people will take action, others probably won't. Is there an enforcement plan that is ready to go to pull off the shelf? And over what time period will that be?
Okay, so the first letter that goes out, we're giving a 90-day time frame for a person to repair, because we're well aware that there's probably a shortage of plumbers or drain layers out there. We've asked in the letter to contact us within 30 days or to let us know what's happening. If we don't hear from the property owner, we will send another letter, and we'll continue to send letters for 30 days until that 90 days has expired. And then we will talk with the council of where that property is to talk about the next level of enforcement, because we really do want to work with our community. We don't actually want to get to that point of enforcement using a stick, to say, because that's not really in the spirit of what we're trying to achieve.
Councillor Rush, there's also a paper before the next committee meeting of council with financial arrangements for affected property owners. So that's has not yet been approved, but it's likely to be.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Councillor Foon, welcome.
Kia ora tātou. Thank you. Yes, it's good to be here. Hope you're all doing well in your bubble. Look, just two questions from me. One is around the are you confident that the current settings for maintenance and levels of service at the WWTP adequately reflect the aspirations of the community for clean water?
Which officer would like to answer that?
Mr. Chair, I think I might ask Anna for comment on that, please.
Based on the submissions that we've received on our consent application, I guess the simple answer is no. I don't think we are currently achieving the aspirations of the community. Obviously, there's also the Whai Toa committee that also looks after the aspirations of the community, and Regional Council have the proposed natural resources plan. So I guess there's a lot of things in train that different parts of the organisation at Wellington Water and PCC are working on in order to try and achieve the aspirations of the community. But I would suggest that no, the answer at the moment is that no, we're not meeting them.
Okay. What is the timeline that you've got and the plan in place to meet them? Is it a 5-year plan or a 3-year plan, or what does it look like?
I guess that might come down to which of their aspirations we think we're trying to achieve. I wouldn't have any kind of idea on the time frame to achieve Mana Whenua's aspirations, for example, around, no water contaminated with human waste being discharged to the environment. And that's probably at one end of the spectrum, whereas obviously achieving full treatment of wastewater that gets to the plant has a much shorter time frame, and that's 2023. So I guess with the information we have to date, that's a very broad and open-ended question that I'm probably not best placed to answer.
Okay, one more question just around the global consents. What are you anticipating these will cost? And wouldn't the idea be to invest in fixing the root of the problem rather than the consents?
So my understanding, and I'm not in the consent team, so apologies, we don't have someone from that team here. I wasn't anticipating questions on the global consent. Is that obviously under the proposed natural resources plan, there is a requirement to have consent for these discharges. But yes, we would obviously look to remove the discharges in the first instance. And that's certainly a lot of the work that Abby and her team are doing in the Know Your Pipes process.
Okay, and so I'll send an email about finding out how much the consents would cost. Okay, thank you. That's useful. Thank you, Anna.
Okay, Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, look, just on page 11, item 5, what are the regional public health concerns yet to be resolved about consenting, and what's the Runanga's concerns about the duration for the resource consent?
The Runanga would prefer a 10-year resource consent duration, and that's in line with their feeling that they would be able to achieve their goals with shorter consent. We are working with them to try and include conditions into the consent that have required milestones over the duration in order to have the 20-year duration. So we're working with them to try and resolve those issues. Regional public health have similar concerns around some of the duration and the testing sites and the analyses that we're undertaking. So whether we analyse for fecal coliforms, which is what we've done under the current consent, or whether we look at enterococci, which is the indicator organism in seawater rather than freshwater.
Right, and the final one is the conclusion on page 13. We're saying Veolia has operated the Porua plant with full compliance, but they haven't, have they, with the abatement not being completed?
So abatement notices are a little different to the consent compliance. So I guess what I was trying to convey there is that the effluent on a daily basis has met its compliance limits, rather than whether we'd received an abatement notice. But I take your point, and we'll try and be more clear in future reports.
Okay, I have no further comments or questions. I'll put the recommendation then. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against?
No.
You want that recorded?
Yes, please.
Okay, carried.
Committee.
All right, we now go to 6.2. This is the wastewater treatment plant and Spicer landfill financial report. So I'll move the recommendation to get it on the table. Seconder, please. Councillor Hayward, thank you. Open for discussion. Any comments? David?
No, Mr. Chair, it's a reasonably straightforward. This is the end of year result. As I've said, there are presented prior to end of year, any end of year adjustments. Generally, the position is unremarkable. I'll just ask if there's any questions.
Yeah, I've got Councillor Leggett, followed by Councillor Rush. Councillor Leggett, you're on.
Sorry, you can hear me now.
Yeah.
I just wanted to note that the CapEx spend reflects some of the issues that some of us, including Councillor Hayward, have been talking about in terms of capital projects and the slippage in those projects. So I just wanted to say that I hope some of that is caught up in the next financial year or in this current financial year.
Okay, noted. Councillor Rush.
Yeah, just on paragraph 11, which talks about the increase in ETS charges. Just wondering if we got any mitigation plans in the pipeline to address that, because it's only going to get bigger.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. Obviously, the key mitigation plan is through the increases in charges, which we're going to have to make hand in hand with the increasing waste levy. So as each year goes by, and we've had a vote for an increased charge this year, that'll happen next year and so on. We are going to auction in the next few days for the next round of purchase of credits, and we're expecting that credit cost is going to rise again. In terms of reducing reducing the emissions through reduction of the organic waste going in, yes, there are plans which we are making to try and reduce organic waste going to the landfill, and perhaps the next meeting I might be able to bring some of those plans to the table. It could be better placed in the landfill report, though, rather than the financials.
Yeah. That'd be helpful. Thanks. And if I may, just on health and safety, another bulldozer accident I see. What's going on there? And fires at the tip face. Are fires pretty common? Because we seem to be getting them regularly. I'm just wondering if that's a standard thing that happens in landfills.
It's not uncommon. Typically, the cause is lithium batteries exploding. It does happen. When we completed the currently active cell just over a year ago, we purchased thermal imaging camera to make sure that we could get any notice of anything burning out of control. But yeah, batteries will go off in the tip face, as they do from time to time in the trucks that run around the street and pick rubbish up as well.
Yeah, so have we got firewater on hand there?
Yes, there is, yep.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Don't know, Laurie, if you had any other things for the team.
Yeah, it was just picking up on the health and safety issues with the bulldozers seem to be repeating quite regularly. What is in place to mitigate those accidents?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, can I just check, please, that we're still on the financial report?
Yeah, well, I was beginning to wonder where that came into it. I was looking at the paper to see where the health and safety was there. So I think that's in the next one, isn't it?
Yeah, apologies, 6.3, you are right.
Yeah. So
have I jumped again?
Yes,
I do
you
this.
have. We're on the
Sorry.
financials, 6.2. Thank you, David, for that. I was beginning to wonder what was going on. Okay, so there'll be no further questions of the financial report. Oh, yes, Councillor Hayward. Sorry, I missed that. Go for it.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Can I confirm with regards to point 9 that the financial report is sent to Wellington Water for commentary in terms of these issues that are raised in terms of when it comes to variances, or is this or is Wellington Water's participation covered in the previous item?
Mr. Chair, it's actually the other way around. Wellington Water report to us on progress on capital and operational expenditure on a monthly basis. And typically it is the report that I get from Wellington Water, which provides some of the commentary in this report. Now, on occasion, I may check back with Wellington Water to make sure there's no change to their commentary, but it actually comes from Wellington Water to this report, not the other way around, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to put the recommendation in. All those in favour? Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. We'll now move on to 6.3, which is the landfill report. So I'll move it to get it on the table. Seconded by Councillor Rush. Open for discussion.
Mr. Chair, I'll just take the report as read, please.
Yeah, sorry. You don't want to make any comment, just taken as read? Okay. Councillor, I think Councillor Hayward had his hand up first. So go for it, Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The ADC trial, can I just confirm it would appear that there's not a significant impact in the overall bulk volume that's going as a consequence of this alternative approach. Can you just confirm that that is indeed the case, or put another way, should I be concerned that this trial would have a significant impact in the volume of waste going into the fill?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, the trial and the anticipation of making a certain reduction in space being used by the clean fill, it would seem as though we're talking about the difference in perhaps 100 millimetres of cover versus 50 millimetres of cover, which may not sound appreciable. However, the work that was done in the run up to the LTP initially had suggested that we were going to be running out of space somewhere around the mid-2040s. And there were a couple of actions that were dropped into the LTP, including the prospect of using alternative daily cover. And that particular proposal added years of life to the landfill. So I appreciate that, as it might seem a fairly small sort of incremental change, the fact is when you look at it over the next 20 to 25 years, it's a fairly appreciable difference in how much extra capacity is saved.
Councillor, you okay with that? That was okay. Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, mine goes back to what we were talking about earlier, the health and safety. The first one on there of June 21 lists a medical treatment injury, but it doesn't appear in the incidents, and I wonder what the incident was.
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure. Without going back through the detail health and safety reports from the on-site manager, I'm not sure, but I can find out and have that circulated.
We'll come back to you.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments?
It was.
Oh yeah, sorry, Councillor Poon. I'll come back to you, Councillor Duncan. Councillor Poon.
Kia ora, thank you. Yes, so that was just about, there were a couple of, one unsafe act driving on the phone in June 21, and then just going back, there was one falling off the bulldozer, which was a bit alarming, although it was November 20 last year. But I think Wellington City Council is particularly concerned about health and safety at the landfill. As I understand, we did lose someone a few years back, so we're very cautious about this. So I just want to check, what measures have you got in place so that these things are being stopped? So like there's a couple of talking on the phone, for example. So how are you working to stop these regular things happening?
Yeah, So our contractor on site, EnviroWaste, has its own health and safety system with which it both tracks these incidences that are occurring and then also records what has been done about it, similar to the People Safe system that we use ourselves at PCC. We do take great interest in, obviously, any incidences that there are public involved, but they're generally minor things as children stepping out of cars at the refuse transfer station. With regard to the employee safety, so any of those incidences which occur at the tip face are either EnviroWaste employees or they are commercial operators. The system used by EnviroWaste to record what they've done, I could add that to the report if that's helpful, so we can see the record of what was actually done about it. But normally just make sure that the contractor is taking some kind of action. Now we have monthly meetings at Spicer Landfill. The first of the items on the standard agenda for those meetings is in the health and safety report. Mr. Chair, I wonder if it would be helpful if I expanded that table in the future to add in actions taken.
I think that's probably
we do get them.
Yeah,
I'll do that.
Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, and just one further in the health and safety. In December 20, November 20, October 20, the numbers of incidents 13, 8 and 9 don't correlate with the numbers of incidents listed. And I wonder, do we take it for granted those are just odour complaints?
Just scanning down the table, Mr. Chair, there are quite a lot of odour complaints in there, but no, they won't be listed as lost time, medical injury or first aid injuries. I'm not sure if that answers the question.
Did you get that?
No, if you look at December 20, you'll see 13 incidents, but only 2 incidents listed underneath them, and are the others not consequential?
No, they will be things that are not considered consequential. But again, if we're going to say 13 incidences, we could list them all, Mr. Chair, or make that table a little bigger, but I'm happy to do that.
Yep. Okay, Councillor Daggett.
Yeah, sorry, just a question. Can you remind me whether some of those apps there, like talking on a cell phone, does that include public while they're driving to the tip face, either for or away? It does, doesn't it?
Not the public as they're driving to the refuse transfer station, no. This is these ones are being tracked with the commercial operators going all the way up to the tip face, and unfortunately sometimes also involving an actual EnviroWaste employee as well.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
Councillor Poon.
Just a quick question. Who is ultimately responsible for the safety of the employees? Is it EnviroWaste or Porirua City Council?
It will be the PCBU under the Health and Safety Act, the person conducting the business or undertaking. And as the site is owned by the committee, managed by PCC and operated by EnviroWaste, that PCBU is likely a combination of all three.
So to clarify, we're all personally liable?
Well, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure of the actual legalities on that. My understanding is that eventually there is a personal liability. It would probably depend on the accident. I see Andrew's popped his video on, so he may have an answer.
My understanding, Mr. Chair, is councillors aren't personally liable. Legislation is quite specific, but councillors aren't. It's more officers, CEOs.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that. Any further questions?
Just a couple.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Rush, you're not on mic.
Sorry. So I'm interested about this alternative cover material which is sprayed onto the open face. So is that, what is that? Is that in any way hazardous, chemical? Will it leach? Is it been approved?
Yeah, the material, to be honest, I can't remember exactly what the compound is that's used, but the material is approved for use for this specific purpose. It's used in a few places, and as I said, we had the approval from Greater Wellington Greater Wellington Regional.
Okay, that's
the
good.
thing is, it's not part of our consent, so we had to make sure we had approval for it.
And last one, so one of these incidents was a fire in the dozer. How does that happen?
Mr. Chair, I missed that one, but I can find out.
The fire in the dozer.
Don't know.
Yeah. Anyway,
Okay.
It seems like an odd one, and it sounds like a serious one, unless it was a cigarette, maybe. I don't know. Okay.
Okay. No further
Thanks,
questions.
Stuart.
No further questions. Then I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour, aye. Against.
Aye.
Carried. Now to 6.4, which is the landfill resource consent design options. And I'll move the recommendation to get it on the table. Councillor, don't rush me. Councillor Hayward, you're going to stick your hand up. Thank you. Thank you to second that. So open for discussion. Oh no, not open. Yeah, but officer comment first.
No particular. I just want to make sure we've got Teresa Minogue. Teresa's the project planner who's doing the work to prepare the consent. And Teresa's on hand there and will take questions as they might relate to specifically resource consenting matters. But other than that, we're just open for questions.
Okay. Are there any questions? Councillor Duncan?
Thank you. On page 25, 26, I must say 3B looks the likely option to me, but it talks about relocation of existing operational area, but it doesn't mention any need to move the gas flare or the weighbridge, but it seemed important in the other two options. Can somebody enlighten me on that one?
Yep, Teresa, can you comment on that, please?
Sorry, can you just repeat the question?
Yeah, the option for 3B talks about relocating the existing operational area, but it makes no mention of any need to move the gas flares or the weighbridge, as it has mentioned in the two previous options. Is that not an important factor in this?
It is definitely important. The design we're commenting on at the moment is just a concept design, so it's very, very high level, and there will be a finer level of design that will be done through the process. So there's some things later on that will become more important, but at the moment we're at such a high level of design that it will become important later on. But everything's important. Some have greater weighting than others, and it's just how it impacts on other things like design and consenting risks as well, and any other follow-on impacts on any other operational matters as well.
Okay, righto. Well, and the second question I had was, each option seems to focus on the proximity to fault lines. What risks do you see in there being, anything on the fault lines there? I'd have thought if the hurry of fault ruptures, we're in bigger trouble with everything else.
So the fault line is important. There is a known fault line which the existing landfill does go over. So that option, we will be adding more fill on waste on top of that. That's a design matter, but there's also potentially an indicative fault line on the western boundary, which we are still to determine if that actually really exists at the moment. But if in the event of an earthquake, if there's a massive earthquake, it's going to rupture anyway. And there's a design level that you design your liners to as well, to try and mitigate as much of that risk as possible. So we're very conscious that it's there, and it is sort of high on our risk table as well. And that just comes down to design.
Great, thanks.
Councillor Hayward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for this report. My concerns in terms of trying to ascertain my confidence in making a decision is one about the stringency or the quality of the multi-criteria assessment. So are there other examples of multi-criteria assessment or NCA that have been used in other plants that were relied upon for the development of this, or is this an entirely bespoke assessment?
So this criteria was given to us by our consultants, which are Tonkin and Taylor, and they have worked on numerous landfills around New Zealand, including the Southern landfill, for any consenting work. So that criteria was given to us by them, and we've relied on their judgment in terms of the criteria to assess it. So whether it's specifically bespoke to this project, I'm not sure. They may have used similar, other projects will have different criteria, but for this one, they would have probably designed it more for our project, because they've worked on this site for numerous years in the operational side as well. So they've got a lot of knowledge of the site and the risks and how it operates. And this MCA has been reviewed. The criteria has gone through our legal review as well, and they were comfortable with the work that's been done to date.
Okay. The other question I have, and it's probably harder to answer, and I think you've kind of alluded to it in your previous answer to Councillor Duncan. Moving forward, what role does Council envisage in terms of its engagement with Te Rurunga or Toa Rangatira around the cultural challenges of that space and the design process moving forward?
Yeah, so to date, I have on another project mentioned this to Ngati Toa, that this project will be coming up over the next sort of 18 months. So they're aware that it's sort of happening. And I have been engaging with Tāne in terms of setting up an engagement process with Ngati Toa, and very much a partnership approach. And at the moment, we're still waiting to hear back how we move forward with that. But we do have an engagement plan on how we process that with Ngati Toa, but they're very much going to be part of the project. The level of detail will be how much resources they have got as well. And as I said, I have been liaising with Tāne, our iwi liaison manager, to make sure that we run that process properly in a partnership approach, and any public consultation will be done after we've engaged sort of first with Ngati Toa.
Thank you. Just one other request, Mr. Chair. Perhaps we should request that subsequent reports for the landfill should probably have some mention of progress in relation to this resource consent, so that there's always an opportunity either for us as councillors or the officers to keep us appraised of progress as this project proceeds.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I have previously referred to the project, but this was quite a significant sort of decision, so pulled as a separate report. But what I'll ensure is that taking councillors' comment on board, we will make, as part of the standard format for this particular report, an update on the resource consent, but there will be certain milestones in the project which would probably require, as we've done today, a specific report to be pulled out as well.
All right, thank you. Councillor Foon.
Kia ora, and look, just this is a bit new on me, but how long ago did you do the last cell for your landfill extension?
Yep, the current cell in use was completed in June last year.
So you're filling that up already?
Yes.
So I guess this is hard to look at without a full picture, and I know that you've expressed before that you don't have your waste reduction plan alongside this committee, but I don't know how you can look at it as a single thing without looking at the waste reduction as part of this. How are you going to talk to your community about it, perhaps?
I'll make an answer first, and Teresa, if you wanted to add any comment with regard to conditions subject to waste reduction, then please do. But Again, coming back to the long-term plan and reference to our projections for the fill of the site going forward, those projections do take into account, apart from the alternative daily cover, we do also take into account some waste reduction as guided by the WMMP. I'll say guided by the WMMP. Now, with regard to the timing of cells and size of cells required, that waste reduction is a part of the calculation. There are a number of initiatives already underway anyway, and some which we'll bring to the committee in time. But apart from that, I wonder, Teresa, is there a comment you could add with regard to waste reduction being a feature or a reference in the actual consent itself?
Yes, I can. In preparing our communication stakeholder engagement strategy, there is a key message around waste reduction and making reference to that. So it's not going to be lost within the bigger picture. So it will be very much, yes, when we've discussed this as a project team, yes, we realise we're wanting to add more capacity, but we also realise that we need to also, as part of the messaging, make sure that we have our waste reduction targets as well that we're aiming for. Just because we add more capacity doesn't mean that we need to fill it up just because it's there. It's just to buy a bit of life in the landfill. But we are also working with Nigel's team in terms of that waste reduction stuff, and they're very much part of our team moving forward to make sure that message gets out when we're doing consultation.
Just to clarify, sorry, Teresa, when Teresa refers to Nigel, we're referring to Nigel Clark, for those councillors that have maybe not come across Nigel, who is our manager for waste minimisation and public education, etc.
Thanks, David. And one more question on this. Have you, as part of this high-level scope, taken on board the impact to your biodiversity and local environment?
Yes, we have. We haven't started that work yet. We will have a team of specialists that will be going out on site once this design option's been chosen, so they can go and study the area that will be impacted by this work. And also there is the Greater Wellington Regional Plan as well that we need to be cognizant of, which will have a key focus on biodiversity as well, because there'll be stream reclamation, which is of quite a high risk in the project, because that does affect the biodiversity. And also, if we're removing pine forest, that's going to potentially disturb quite established habitats for terrestrial ecology as well. So part of this project will be assessing the impacts of the landfill on that once we progress through it.
What is the name of the stream?
There is the Mitchell stream, but there are a number of unnamed tributaries of the streams going into the Porirua Harbour.
And it goes into the Porirua Harbour.
They're shown on the greater on the maps on the regional plan.
Okay, thank you.
But they will be mapped by the specialists when they go on site to look at how much we're going to remove.
Okay.
Okay. Nobody else got the hand up? Okay, no further questions then. I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Any against? Carried. Thank you for this afternoon. I now declare the meeting closed.